Good morning, everybody. John Self here. Welcome to Career Live. We've got a great program. I'm really kind of excited about it today. We're going to be talking about some keys to help you with your search. So if you have questions along the way, drop them in the chat box. We'll be here with you for about 30 minutes. We're so glad that you're joining us today. And this will be available on a replay on our YouTube channel, John G. Self, and Guiding Your Career, John G. Self. That's YouTube, our signature channel, John G. Self. It's Guiding Your Career, John G. Self. I'll get it right in a minute. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Again, if you missed this, or if you have to leave for a meeting or get coffee, there will be a replay of this on YouTube and on LinkedIn, I believe, as well. We're streaming today from Tyler, Texas, so it's a little after 7:30 here in Texas Central Time. And we use LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So we're delighted to have you today. Our focus is the importance of sweating the small stuff. And I know that, a lot of you, one of the big problems you have when you start looking for a job is that your brain kind of defaults to the way you've always done it. And in a lot of times, that's really a great thing that our brain does for us. I mean, it draws on all the experiences we've had. Unfortunately, today, there's been so much change in the job market with technology, with our AI, and with some great things that, recruiters are it's just a different world now with recruiters. And so you have to really, really be up and aware of what's happening. So we're going to talk about the importance today of sweating the small stuff. And we're also going to talk about organizing your day in a job search. Again, this is, job searching is unlike anything else. It's not like doing your job. Somebody once said, oh no, hell no, it's a lot harder. So sweat the small stuff always. That's our part one theme today. So let's talk about this. Now, we all know, or we should know, that the process of finding a job is really tough go, even on the best of days. Even if you're not having to do a lot of online, if you have a good network and you're getting referrals, sometimes the referrals can go astray. And this is just a tough market. I mean, you get referred to recruiters, and then recruiters aren't in full disclosure. They don't tell you that there was no way they were going to hire somebody outside of market for a job. They don't tell you that there are internal candidates, that they prefer the internal candidates. And so you can find yourself in a really big time wasting mode. And in a job search, time wasting is really, really something you've got to try to avoid. When we're out of work, I'm not sure who puts more pressure on us, our families, to, hey, get back, let's get things back to normal, especially if you have young kids and a spouse who doesn't want to relocate. That can be kind of tough. And these pressures are pretty immense. And I think the competition for management and executive positions is very, very intense today. Yesterday we saw Chairman Powell. I sat in on his conference where he was answering questions from reporters. And they still talk about the job imbalance, that there are more jobs than there are people applying for them at certain levels. Those are gross macro numbers. This is not management executive level. And any of you who are out there today who are applying for jobs knows that there are a lot of people for every position that you go for, between 50 to 200 or 300 people. So it's you just have to deal with that pressure. You have to deal with that rejection. And so you really need to sweat the small stuff. Now, then we throw into that kind of boiling stew, AI technology, and we're making a challenging process even more formidable with increasing levels of rejection because AI is dragging more candidates to the table. It's like, hell, guys, there's enough competition already. Why go look for 2,000 or 3,000 more people? And that's kind of the interesting thing. We talk about sweating the small stuff on a broad level. There's a point. Leaders should not get into the weeds. They should trust their subordinates, hire good people, and get out of the way. And that was the Steve Jobs approach. The counterpoint is CEOs should pay attention to the details, to delight their customers again and again. And to a certain extent, that was the Jack Welch of that legendary GE CEO and a lot of other CEOs. They're not micromanagers, but they pay attention to the details. Well, in a job search, pay attention to the details. That's really critical. It's a must. And this is part of the active career management formula that we really espouse. A lot of people either don't manage their careers or it's very passive. Today's marketplace, you have to be active. And those of you who are in the job market now, who are dealing with the rejection, who are really kind of frustrated because you're trying to do everything right, you're trying to pay attention, one of the things you want to do is once you get that job, don't turn off the career management button, because career management is not about finding a job. It's about accelerating and elevating your career. So the panic of losing a job, the pressure to find a new one, as I said, is intense. And because our brains are such magnificent computers, sometimes when there's stress, we default to what we've always known and what we've always done. And the brain will play games with you. You're good. Don't worry. All about customization. Go meet your friends. It's Friday. It's a Friday. Don't worry about it. Everything will be okay. Even though the person who called and gave you the lead said, you need to get this in. This CHRO told me she was going to be working tomorrow. Get this in today. I was thinking about something that happened to me once, a long time ago. Had a hot date. I was in high school. I worked for my father in his retail bakery. He was very successful. And on this Saturday, earlier in the afternoon, we had 8 or 10 wedding cakes to deliver. And so that took up a lot of time. So my getting on to my primary job, which was to clean the bakery after the bakers had finished for the day, that was kind of crummy. So I washed a lot of pots and pans. And in this date, I had a date. It was really a neat person. I was really excited. And I was worried, gosh, I'm not going to have time. I can't go pick her up looking like I am now. So I was going to have to go home and shower. So I just went crazy. I was putting stuff everywhere. I was working really, really fast. And my father saw me. I was just kind of lightly mopping the floor. And he looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "A lick and a promise." And he said, "What?" And I said, "I'm giving it a lick today. And I promise you I'll come back tomorrow after church and finish the job." He shook his head and let me be. Well, a lick and a promise won't work in job search today. I mean, there's a lot of just dysfunction. A client of mine just told me that, he'd been dealing with recruiters, and the salary that they're now talking to him about is $100,000 less than what he was originally told. That's common today, and it's easy to second guess, to say, well, we shouldn't have wasted time on that. But the truth is, you just have to have so many things going all at once to really navigate through all the garbage that's pitched in your direction. But anyway, in search, a lick and a promise is lethal. So sweating the small stuff is vital. Beware of your brain and your ego. Don't worry. Do what you've always done. It'll be okay. Trust your instincts. You'll be okay, but you won't, because your brain hasn't processed in with a lot of experience about what's happening today. And that small stuff makes a difference. You got to do the small stuff, from posting what you post, to your research, to your preparation, and to your rehearsal. And if you're not doing those things, when you get into an interview, you're really hamstringing yourself. So sweating the small stuff, doing your homework, doing that research, doing the preparation, trying to understand all the issues, and then rehearse the questions you think you might be asked, or the points you would like to make in connecting with the employer. Rehearse these things, okay? The small stuff will be a foundation of confidence, and confidence will make you self-aware, and a self-aware candidate is really, really strong in a job interview. Now, confidence without the preparation, without sweating all the small stuff, is arrogance. And arrogance, as you probably surmised, is not a highly rated job skill. I can't stress this enough. People that are self-aware it's so much more enjoyable as an interviewer to conduct that interview and to listen and be engaged by that individual. As I've said before, I've interviewed probably more than 9,000 people, and it's really, really critical to your success to be self-aware, because now you're really listening to the prospective employer. You kind of know what you're already thought through your answer, so your brain's not having to process that, and you can think more about, I have to connect with this person, trust, likability, connect, that show them I am the answer to their problems. So that's why self-awareness is so important. Okay, so let's take a kind of shift basis for a minute. And searching for a job is harder than doing your job. And I know everybody out there probably who's in the job search now would agree without any sip of the morning coffee. Sorry about that, but I was up at 4:20 to be in the gym early this morning and got my workout in, and hopefully my waistline will respond sooner than later. Okay, searching for a job is harder than doing the job. You know, once I had a guy who came to me at an ACHE meeting where I was a speaker at the Congress in Chicago. I was teaching the interview skills course, and he'd been in this course several times. Based on what I understood, he'd been either laid off or terminated 3 or 4 times in the last 5 or 6 years. Not a great record. I don't think he really God intended him to be a CEO, but he had this master's in hospital administration, and he felt like he had to do it. But he was so frustrated. He said, John, you know what? I would love to have your job as an executive recruiter. And I said, why? And he said, because you help people find jobs, and that's so cool. Well, it was terrible. I had to disabuse him of that notion. And I said, Roger, I have to look for work every day. You don't like to do it when you lose your job, but that's part of my job, is looking for work. So be careful what you pray for. Well, I tell you this, one of the things I would really encourage you, when you get your new position, and all of you will land eventually. I know it's hard. I know you're facing some really big time challenges, and I think about you, and I worry about you, and I keep thinking, what can we do to change the construct so that there's a breakout and people can get those jobs that they want and they need, and that does keep me up at night thinking about, what am I doing and how can I change it? How can I make it better? How can I make it more meaningful? Once, when I was doing the search work, that telephone stayed glued to my ear because I was always making contacts. I was always looking for opportunity, and you kind of have to do that today. Okay. The reality of your past. As an executive or a manager, you had someone to delegate the less favorable task to, okay? As a job seeker, you are, as my father used to say, he was a very successful retail baker, you are the chief cook and bottle washer. If you don't do it, it doesn't get done. And undone tasks are really bad in a job search. So ignoring the work that you do not like, and let me guess, cold calling probably is high on everybody's list. It's going to hurt your job efforts. And when you kick that can down the road, every day you don't do something that's part of the essential process, you could be delaying your search results a day, a week, probably more like a month or months. So you want to be very diligent. There are things about a job search that are really crappy things that you have to go through, and you have to deal with the people who are dealing with some people who are being disingenuous, and that you might not be getting the right information about what the candidate pool really is like and what the underlying message is from what the client's hidden agenda is. But you have to take care of those details, and you just can't not do it, and you can't say, well, I don't feel good today. I think I'll go. I'm just going to take the afternoon off. Okay. Every once in a while, you need a mental health break. But if you do that 2 or 3 times in a week, you're talking about extending your search 2 or 3 months at a time. When you do that, it takes that 4 to 6 hours every day. I know it can be bone crushing, but you can be producing content. You can be doing researching on content. You can be doing cold calling. You can be scanning the LinkedIn for people to connect with, and then working to build a stronger relationship with them with through email, intermittent emails and other types of posts. You can't ignore work you don't like. One call or one email, people who don't like this, you say, okay, they're ready for your call. Well, they don't know me, and are they going to really like hearing from you? Yes, they're expecting your call. Okay, and then they'll call at end of day, or they'll call at lunch when the person's not there. Okay, they make a call and they go, okay, I've done it. Okay, you've done it, but you've not moved the needle. So if you have to, if somebody doesn't call you, you don't get upset, because everybody's busy. And if you call, wait for 4 or 5 days and say, I know you're busy, but if we could set up some time, I really would appreciate it. Wait for 3 or 4 days. If they hadn't called back, send an email and say, I'm sorry we weren't able to get together. I was hoping I could benefit from some of your knowledge about the marketplace. I'm interested in relocating. And just don't ever say, why didn't you call me back? Don't get irritated. Don't get snarky. Just be persistent. At one time, trying to connect with somebody is not really an effort. There are going to be people who don't want to talk to you, won't return the phone call. Now, generally, when people say, yes, I'll take the call, they usually do that, okay? But one call or one email trying to connect with somebody because you're uncomfortable or, that's not going to work. And another great American metaphor is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Gosh, that's the 3 today already. I think I've reached my limit. So you have to, again, that's part of those details that you have to sweat. Okay, target the jobs that align with your career plan. Okay, it's real easy when you start getting recruiters calling you. They're searching your profile. Well, we've got this physician practice management job, and if you've never managed a practice, you don't have the credentials. You got to make an important decision. Okay, I may go on one of those, but you don't want to spend all your time and go on 5 of those, because the truth is, at the end of the day, those practice management people are just as provincial as those hospital people. Oh, well, he's never done this before. He couldn't possibly do it. Now, that's a large load of El Toro, what, but the truth is, they will side with somebody local who's not qualified, or they will hire somebody who's, maybe 1 year away from retirement, but he's a fellow in the MGMA, and that's really good. Okay, so they will do a short-term solution. And, so you just have to say, okay, where am I going? What do I want to accomplish with my career? If I'm a great hospital operator, but I'm not getting the calls, well, let's try to stay closer to hospital operations whenever possible. And let's double down, and let's absolutely continue to work contacts and make new contacts in the hospital sector. If you're not talking to hospital people and you're not posting about hospitals, and your success in hospitals, the recruiters aren't going to be calling you about hospital jobs. So they're scanning, and they're looking for a variety of keywords and phrases. And if you're not when you do your post, you got to think about all the keywords that you're seeing in those job summaries. Use some of those, work those into your post whenever you can. That's another way to attract the computers. Keywords and phrases are not just for resumes, okay? Now, when you fail to do the necessary task to win, don't blame it on the system. God knows the system is pretty screwed up today, but let me tell you something. You have to do all the work and then some, then you can blame it on the system, okay? Remember this. When you get laid off, and they picked you to be laid off, why? When you didn't get the job, they picked somebody else. Why? What could you have done to make yourself more attractive? Well, if you don't have all your credentials, that's a step that's a strike. Recruiters are now looking. Do you have fellowship status? Are you an MGMA fellow? Are you an HFMA fellow? Healthcare is real big about those credentials. If you don't have them, then use this opportunity, to try to get your education and get your credential done. If you go to Congress 1 year, and that's expensive, I know, and if you're not working, that's a big expense that you probably can't afford. But all you have to do is go to Congress for 1 year. You'll get all your Category 1 credits, and then you can go to some of the local meetings and qualify, and then take an online test. And if you pass the test, you're a fellow. You don't have to do all the writing. You don't have to do the orals anymore. And that will, there's some health systems that won't even talk to you if you're not a fellow. That's crazy, because I know some great people out there that are incredibly talented CEOs that are not fellows. Okay, now when you talk about organizing your day, this is back into sweating the details. You got to spend 4 to 4.5 days a week, and you got to spend 4 to 6 hours a day looking for jobs. When you say, well, I looked at all this stuff in the morning. The internet and the changes are not one time a day. What you saw from the news feeds early in the morning, there may be a whole new bushel basket of opportunities later in the afternoon. They may have staged how they were going to put those out. So you need to check your feeds like Becker's 2 to 3 times a day. And you need to keep a list of the things that you're really pursuing, because let me tell you something, because you're working in a job search, you're doing something that is not normal, because this is unique kind of work, you're not always going to remember what you have to do or what you've done. So keep a journal, keep a log of who you're talking to so that you can not forget. Okay? And look over that log every day and think, can I follow up with? What can I do to advance this any further? What can I post that might support these positions? Okay? You schedule your crap test. I'm sorry, I apologize for the language, but the stuff that you don't like, the cold calling or the posting or customers, post that every day on your schedule and make yourself do it. Okay? Dropping stuff off because you don't like it is not going to get you to a job in a timely manner. And you have to make the cold calls. And when I say cold calls, I'm talking about people you connect with. And if they've connected with you and maybe you've had 1 or 2 exchanges, then try to make a phone call to them and just say, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. I think you need to be using video emails as well. You can get a free version of that stuff for 30 days. I know if you're tight on money, you can't really afford it, but there's some workarounds on that. So check with me and we can probably try to figure something else. But video, all the research is showing, it's getting slowly stronger and stronger, and that the recognition of video is so much more powerful than text messages, and they're more likely to be opened. Okay? So when you're trying to build a network, video is the way to go. And we are working now, I know I've been saying this, but we have been working on trying to make, I'm not going to put a course out there on using video that's not really good. So what we're trying to do is reach out to our partners and get them to provide us with some work that they've done so we can use that to augment our teaching. And we're getting close with that on SendSpark. We're looking at some videos right now. So we've moved that ball a little bit, but it's something you're going to need to do. And why do you want to do it? Well, who are all the recruiters? They're not people like me. Okay, we're tired of that nonsense. The recruiters are some X, but mainly millennials and increasingly Gen Z. Millennials and Gen Z, what did they grow up with? They grew up with their mobile device. What did they do with their mobile device? They watched videos. Business Insider today said that more and more young people are looking to TikTok for their news. It's not moderated news, it's not network news, but they're looking for influencers and people like that. They are engaged on those platforms. If you're not on TikTok, it doesn't cost anything to get on TikTok. Increasingly, you don't have to do the stuff they do. You can talk about things that you've done in your career. Post once a week. You need to have a YouTube channel. You need to be able to put YouTube on LinkedIn. So video is increasingly important to do. And always allow time every day for the cold calls. Try to do that, either sending videos or try to reach them on the telephone, and make the follow-ups. Always follow up. Even if you have to send a note or an electronic card, work the relationship. If you don't work the relationship, nothing's going to happen. And if you're waiting on them to work you may be waiting for a job for a long time. Now, if you're looking for a job, unless you're playing golf with the hiring authority, being on the golf course, improving your game will not improve your career. Now, I know that if there are times when you can go play golf and it's legitimate. Maybe a recruiter invites you, maybe a hospital board member invites you, or maybe people that you're trying to build relationships invite you, that's great. But, if you're depressed and you don't have anything to do and you're out playing golf a couple of days a week, you're going to slow down your job search. And if you say, well, I don't have anything to do, so I'm going to play golf. You don't have anything to do because you're not running your search correctly. You're not practicing active career management. And so if you have any questions about that, let me know. If you got any questions now, be sure you drop them in the chat bar, and I'll try to answer them for you. We get a lot of email and a lot of questions, but I'm not answering those right now because I think people would prefer to get their information in a little bit different way, and a lot of the same questions were repetitive. So anyway, don't waste your time on the golf course. You can't find a job unless you're putting in the work. The more work you put in, yes, you're going to get a lot of rejection. I wish it weren't true. I really do. I wish you didn't have to go through the anxiety that you're going through. I wish you didn't have to go through the stress that you're going through. But it is where we are. And the best thing to do is just try to pay attention to the details and work hard to move the needle forward. And this goes without saying, what a great cliche, that finding a job is a full-time job. It is just something that you have to do. I know we've covered this before, but I felt like it was really important to get this out there again. If you missed parts of this Career Live this morning, it will be on our YouTube, Guiding Your Career, John G. Self. It'll also be available for replay today on LinkedIn, and I believe also on FaceTime. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think, and let me know what subjects you would like for me to cover here on Thursday mornings at 7:30 a.m. on Career Live. I'm John Self. I've spent 27 years in executive search. I'm now a career coach, and we're happy to help you.